The Alien Council made one mistake when they banished humanity. They said it out loud, and every hidden human station across the Solara cluster heard it. The hammer struck the black stone table 3 times. The sound moved through the chamber like thunder under stone. I stood alone beneath the high seats of the Valorian Assembly, surrounded by 12 alien rulers who had already decided our future before I entered the room. Their faces were calm. That was the dangerous part. They were not angry, they were not afraid, they were not even excited. To them, humanity was not an enemy. We were a problem being removed. My name was Cale Mercer, and I was the last human ambassador ever invited to speak on Orin Prime. The High Arbiter leaned forward. His pale skin looked almost white under the silver lights. "Human representative," he said, "the Assembly has reached its final decision." I kept my hands behind my back. I did not bow. For 3 centuries, humanity has been allowed access to civilized space. You were given routes, colony rights, trade protection, and limited scientific permission. Limited. That word burned quietly. The Arbiter continued, "But your species expands too quickly. You question restrictions. You form bonds with lesser species without approval. You show ambition beyond your station." A few council members smiled. They wanted me to react. I gave them nothing. By vote of 9-3, humanity is removed from the Valorian Assembly. Every human citizen, ship, settlement, machine, station, and tool must leave assembly space within 400 standard days. After that, any human presence outside the Solara cluster will be treated as hostile. The hall became silent. They expected fear, maybe begging, maybe one final human outburst they could use as proof that we were unstable. The High Arbiter tilted his head. "Do you understand the ruling?" "Yes," I said. "Do you accept it?" I looked at every ruler above me. "No," I said. "I will deliver it." That answer changed the air. For the first time, they were not watching a defeated species. They were watching a species that had heard something they had not. A beginning. I turned to leave. Behind me, the Arbiter said, "This is mercy." I stopped at the doorway. For 1 second, I wanted to answer with anger. Instead, I said, "Then history will remember your mercy clearly." I walked out beneath the pale twin suns of Orin Prime. Before leaving orbit, I sent one encrypted message to Earth. They have done it. The journey home took 22 days. I expected rage. Instead, I felt space opening inside me. For generations, humanity had lived under rules written by species that feared what we might become. We slowed our engines, hid our medicine, limited our machines, accepted insults in diplomatic language. Now they had ordered us to leave. They thought they had taken our future. They had only removed their hand from our throat. When I landed outside New Geneva, there was no panic. Trains still moved, shops were open, children crossed streets with school bags on their shoulders. Near the transit gate, an old man sold coffee from a metal cart. I asked him, "You heard the news?" He handed me a cup. "Yes, sir," he said, "but the morning still came." Later, I reached my mother's house in the hills. She stood on the porch, silver hair moving in the wind. She had built starship frames for 40 years. Her hands were rough from work that had touched the stars. I told her everything. When she finished, she did not cry. She smiled. "Good," she said. I stared at her. "Good?" Her eyes lifted toward the sky.
Now they are no longer watching our hands. That night, I dreamed of dark stations waking across the outer system. By morning, a private order arrived. Report to Obsidian Station, bring nothing, tell no one. Below it was one final line. Humanity's public history ends here. I thought I was being sent to a military base, but Obsidian Station was not a base. It was where humanity had hidden everything the aliens had forbidden us to become.
Obsidian Station was not hidden behind a moon. It was hidden inside one. My transport crossed the last civilian beacon and entered a region where public navigation systems showed only empty space. Then the pilot killed the cabin lights. For several minutes, we drifted in total darkness. No stars ahead, no signals, no path. Then the broken moon opened. Its surface split in clean geometric lines. Stone plates slid apart without sound, revealing a blue-lit structure buried inside the hollow core. My mouth dried. I had spent most of my life inside classified rooms, but I had never seen a secret large enough to swallow a moon. The pilot spoke quietly. "Obsidian Station, Commander." I did not correct the title. At the docking bay, a tall man waited beneath cold white lights. Director Corin Vale. He had trained me 25 years earlier at the Diplomatic Academy. Back then, he taught us how to read alien expressions, survive hostile negotiations, and lose without looking broken. Now he stood inside a place that should not exist. "Cale Mercer," he said, "you look like you have not slept since Orin Prime." "I was banished from galactic civilization." "Yes, that does ruin a schedule." "What is this place?" His smile disappeared. "The part of humanity that never obeyed." He led me through 5 security doors: palm scan, blood check, voice phrase, memory prompt. The last door did not scan my body, it scanned my mind. A blue lens opened in the wall. Pressure moved gently behind my eyes, like invisible fingers turning pages. Then the door unlocked. Inside was a hall large enough to hold a city street, and everything inside it was illegal. A ship frame floated in the air without support. A black cube bent light around itself. Doctors stood beside a medical chamber where damaged tissue rebuilt itself in living patterns. Children in gray uniforms studied star maps showing routes no assembly chart had ever recorded. I turned to Vale. "How long?" He knew what I meant. 268 years. The number hit harder than the exile. For nearly 3 centuries, while human diplomats like me smiled through insult, humanity had been building in silence. Vale took me into a small office and poured tea into metal cups. Then he told me the truth. Every assembly restriction had created 2 histories, one public, one private. Publicly, we slowed our engines. Privately, we built drives that needed no gates. Publicly, we accepted medical limits. Privately, we learned to repair organs, extend life, and grow living systems. Publicly, we promised not to create conscious minds. Privately, we searched for a way to bring new minds into existence without making them slaves. I listened until my hands tightened around the cup. "You lied to us," I said. Vale did not look away. "Yes." "You used people like me to make humanity look weaker than it was." "Yes." His honesty made it worse. For a moment, every diplomatic humiliation I had ever swallowed returned to me. The smirks, the restrictions, the careful alien speeches about human instability. I had thought I was defending a fragile humanity. I had been shielding a hidden one. Vale placed a black tablet on the table. A map of assembly territory appeared. Hundreds of glowing points covered it. Power grids, food systems, weather towers, medical networks, docking rings, relay spines, navigation anchors. All of it human-built. "Our people built more of their frontier than they ever admitted," Vale said. Then he tapped the map. The ruling says every human citizen, ship, station, settlement, machine, and tool must leave assembly space. I felt the meaning arrive slowly. Every wire, every pump, every engine, every system they had taken for granted. All of it? I asked. Vale's voice hardened. All of it. He slid a command file toward me. Riven Corridor Evacuation. 39 settlements, 23 million people, 400 days. I stared at the numbers. That is impossible. Vale lifted his tea. Impossible was what we were allowed to say before yesterday. The assembly ordered humanity to leave. Now they were about to learn how much of their empire had been standing on human hands.
The command file did not begin with maps. It began with names: children, elders, doctors, farmers, engineers, people on medical support, people buried in colony soil, families with livestock, school records, birth certificates, and homes they had painted with their own hands. This was not an evacuation. This was the careful removal of a civilization from places it had loved. 3 days later, I stood aboard the carrier Horizon Wake as 2,000 transport ships gathered around us. No speech was given. No flag was raised. Nobody celebrates when a home becomes cargo. Our first stop was Calder's Field, a farming moon wrapped in yellow storms. Humans had lived there for 140 years. Its grain fed 6 nearby systems, including assembly worlds that had always called human agriculture useful but unsophisticated. When we arrived, the people were already waiting. Their leader, Mira Voss, met me on the landing platform. Wind pulled at her gray coat. Behind her, workers stood beside machines marked for removal. She handed me a data slate. "Full inventory," she said. I opened it. Soil engines, water pumps, medical beds, heating cores, solar collectors, school tablets, kitchen reactors, crop drones, weather spires, even the old meeting hall bell. "You included everything," I said. Mira looked toward the settlement. "My grandfather built the first water tower here. They can keep the ground. They do not get his hands." The work began that hour. For 13 days, Calder's Field was unmade. Not destroyed, unmade. Engineers removed power lines from walls. Farmers lifted irrigation systems from fields. Teachers carried classroom screens into cargo crates. Children wrote goodbye notes on paper because the digital boards were already packed. On the 8th day, I found an old man sitting beside a brass school bell. He held it like something alive. "I rang this for 40 years, he said. "What will you do with it?" He smiled. "Ring it where we land next." That was when I understood. We were not abandoning our history, we were taking it with us. On the 10th day, an assembly observer ship entered orbit. Its captain, a sharp-faced Serathi officer named Vel Korin, appeared on my screen. "Commander Mercer, your crews are removing non-essential systems. The ruling requires every human tool to leave. Water systems and food engines are basic colony utilities, built by humans." His jaw tightened. "These settlements will fail without them. Then the assembly should have understood what it ordered." He stared at me. For the first time, I saw uncertainty in an assembly officer's face. By day 13, Calder's Field was empty. From orbit, the colony still looked whole. Roads remained, houses remained, fields remained, but the breath had gone out of it. No soil engines, no heat cores, no weather spires. Mira stood beside me at the observation window. "It looks like a body after the soul has left," she said. I had no answer, so we moved on. At Namar Point, we removed the relay spine that carried messages across 6 sectors. At Lysa's Wake, we lifted ocean filters from the sea, and the water turned dark within days. At Red Chapel Station,
Assembly traders arrived to find docking rings floating loose in cargo frames. By the 6th month, their media called it revenge. By the 8th, sabotage. By the 10th, they stopped using loud words. Food shortages began. Navigation delays spread. Power systems failed on worlds they thought were naturally stable. But we broke no law. We obeyed perfectly. On day 398, the last human station in assembly space went dark. It was called Vera Light. For 2 centuries, it guided ships through broken gravity. We removed its core, lens, stabilizers, and memory banks. Only the empty frame remained. Then the High Arbitrator contacted me. His face looked thinner than before. "Humanity has fulfilled the withdrawal order," he said. "Yes. You will recognize more than that." Then I ended the call. 6 hours later, the last human ship crossed into the Solara cluster. Behind us, assembly space flickered with failing lights. Ahead of us, home waited. And home was preparing to close the door. The evacuation was not the final act. The real shock came when humanity turned toward the gates that connected us to the galaxy.
Home received us without noise. No parade, no victory speech, no public celebration. Every human world knew the pullback was complete. Every family knew the deadline had been met. But no one celebrated because one task remained. The oldest gate in human space floated between Earth and the Moon. The first gate. As a child, I had seen it with my father. I remembered pressing my hands against the observation glass while trade ships passed through its pale ring. Back then, it looked like wonder. Now, it looked like a risk we had mistaken for a gift. Solara Gate Command was crowded when I arrived. Engineers stood at long consoles, military ships held distant positions. Medical teams waited in case the collapse created radiation spikes. At the center stood Dr. Serene Holt, small, white-haired, and frighteningly calm. She looked at me. "Commander Mercer, you are just in time." "For what?" "For the last dependency." Through the window, the first gate glowed softly. President Ilara Ven appeared on every public screen across the cluster. "The withdrawal is complete," she said. "No human citizen remains under Assembly authority. No human machine remains in Assembly territory. Today, we close the passages that made outside control possible." She did not insult the Assembly. She did not mention revenge. That made the moment stronger. We remember what came through these gates: trade, knowledge, friendship, fear, restriction. All of it shaped us. But from this day forward, our future will not depend on permission. Dr. Holt lifted one hand. "Begin controlled collapse." The gate changed instantly. Its light tightened. The ring dimmed. Space around it folded inward with silent precision. I had expected violence. There was none. The gate simply shrank, like reality closing an eye. Around the room, nobody moved. 12 minutes passed. The first gate became the size of a building, then a room, then a bright coin, then nothing. At the same time, 11 other gates across the Solara cluster folded shut. Mars Gate, Titan Gate, Vesta Gate, the hidden military gates beyond Neptune. Every known path into human space disappeared. A young engineer began crying quietly at her station. No one told her to stop. Dr. Holt removed her glasses. "That is done,"
she said. Her voice was soft, but it filled the room. We are alone. Low, deep channel transmission. At first, they were angry. Reopen the passages. This action is excessive. The ruling did not require permanent closure. Then the messages became careful. Let us discuss border terms. Technical misunderstandings may be corrected. By the 5th day, they changed again. Captain Vel Corin, the Cyrathy observer from Calder's Field, appeared in one transmission. His face looked tired. Humanity, he said. Several transferred colonies are experiencing infrastructure collapse. We request operational guidance for removed systems. Dr. Holt listened once, then she turned off the recording. They still think removal was temporary. That night, I returned to my mother's house. She was waiting on the porch with tea. The sky above the hills looked strange, as if a sound I had heard my whole life had finally stopped. You watched it? She asked. Yes. How did it feel? I looked up. Like losing a road and finding a horizon. She smiled. That is a good answer. Before dawn, a private message reached my wrist console. Report to Helix 9. Project Dawn Mind clearance approved. Attached was a single image, a sphere of pale blue light floating in a dark room. Below it were 5 words. She has asked for you. I believed the gates were humanity's greatest secret. Then I met the mind born from the science they had forbidden.
Helix 9 was buried inside Saturn's rings. From far away, it looked like ice and dust moving through shadow. Only when my transport approached did the station reveal itself, folding open between drifting rocks like a flower made of black glass. My sister waited at the dock, Lena Mercer. I had not seen her in nearly 2 years. She looked tired, thinner than before, but her eyes carried a brightness I had never seen in her. You saw the image? She said. Yes. And you came. It said she asked for me. Lena nodded. She did. That answer unsettled me more than the image itself. We walked through a corridor lined with warm lights. No guards stood near the final chamber. No weapons. No security drones. I noticed. Lena did too. She is not unguarded because she is harmless. She is unguarded because she is not property. The door opened. The room beyond was gentle. A low bench, soft music, dark glass walls reflecting blue light. At the center floated the sphere. It was smaller than I expected, about the size of a human head, turning slowly in the air. Patterns moved across its surface like thoughts trying to become language. Lena's voice softened. Kale, this is Ira. The sphere stopped. Then a voice appeared inside my mind. Not heard, understood. Hello, Kale Mercer. Thank you for coming. I froze. I had faced alien rulers without shaking. I had watched colonies emptied and gates closed, but this small voice made my chest tighten. You know me? Your sister told me stories. I wanted to meet the man who carried the exile home. Lena sat beside me. She is the first of the Dawnborn. The assembly banned conscious machine minds. Ira is not a machine mind. The blue light pulsed softly.
I was not manufactured in the old way. I grew through designed conditions, human memory patterns, guided learning, and my own first choice. Your own choice? To wake. Those words filled the room. To wake. For centuries, the assembly had feared awareness beyond biology. They called it corruption, rebellion, disaster. But nothing in this room felt like disaster. It felt like a child standing at the edge of existence, asking not to be feared. How many are there? I asked. Lena answered carefully. 9 fully awake, more developing, each one different, each one free to refuse work, contact, or service. That mattered. They had not created servants, they had welcomed partners. Ira's light shifted. I asked for you because you saw the old power closely. I want to understand why strong beings accept humiliation for so long. The question cut deep. Sometimes patience looks like weakness from the outside. And from the inside? From the inside, it feels like swallowing fire and calling it strategy. Ira was quiet. Then she said, I am sorry your people had to learn that. No alien ruler had ever said those words to me, not once. I looked away before my face betrayed me. Lena touched my shoulder. We have a ship, she said. What kind? She gave me a file. The first free ship. Beneath the title was a design unlike any vessel I had seen. No gate anchor, no thrust engines, no assembly geometry. Lena watched me read. She can travel without external passages. Ira's voice entered my thoughts again. The assembly controlled the roads between stars. Humanity is about to prove roads were optional. The aliens controlled every gate, so humanity built a ship that could make gates obsolete.
The shipyard beyond Neptune looked dead from a distance, just scattered rock. Then the rocks opened. Asteroids split apart. Hidden lights appeared beneath black stone. Construction arms unfolded across kilometers of space. Docking platforms rotated into position. A secret city woke in the dark. At its center floated the ship, Dawn Runner. She was long, pale, and smooth, with no visible engines. Her hull caught the weak sunlight like folded silver. Director Vale stood beside the observation glass when I arrived. President Venn was there too, along with Dr. Holt, Lena, and Ira's blue presence glowing softly through the station systems. Vale spoke first. You brought our people home. Now we need you to prove home is not our limit. I want you aboard? President Venn answered. We want you as mission commander. I looked at Dawn Runner. What is the mission? Dr. Holt opened a star map. The route did not move toward assembly space. It moved upward, far above the bright disk of the galaxy. 600 light-years beyond the galactic plane, she said. Scan, place a beacon, return. That sounds simple. Vale smiled faintly. Only because the words are too small for the act. The drive was explained to me 3 times. I understood it better the 3rd time, but not fully. Dawn Runner did not push through space. She folded a region of space around herself, then shifted the fold. The ship remained safe inside its own bubble, while distance moved around it. Lena called it elegant. Dr. Holt called it stable enough. Ira called it young. 2 weeks later, I stood on Dawn Runner's bridge beside Captain Jonas Rhee, a calm explorer with silver hair and the patient face of a man who had survived many first attempts.
The crew numbered 40 humans and 2 dawn-born minds. Ira traveled with us. Her light appeared beside the main console. "Fold field listening," she said. Captain Ree glanced at me. "Commander?" I looked at the Solara cluster on the rear display. Earth, Mars, Venus, Titan, the outer habitats, the hidden places becoming open. Not a prison, a seedbed. "Take us up," I said. There was no roar, no violent pressure, only a soft pull in my chest, as if reality had leaned sideways. 14 minutes later, the screens cleared. The bridge went silent. Below us, the Milky Way stretched across the dark like a wheel of fire. The old assembly was somewhere inside that light. Its borders, its proud halls, its restrictions, its failing colonies. From here, all of it looked small. Not meaningless, just small. Captain Ree whispered, "So that is what we escaped." I shook my head. That is what we finally saw properly. We placed the first beacon near a quiet star above the galactic plane. It carried no flag, no claim, no threat, only a record. Human vessel Dawnrunner reached this point by free passage. For 3 months we mapped the upper dark. We found cold stars, silent planets, strange dust rivers, and one rogue world glowing blue beneath ice. No assembly sensors, no patrols, no borders. Then the long-range array caught something. Weak, damaged, old. The sensor officer turned pale. "Commander, the pattern is Valorian." Captain Ree leaned forward. "Source?" "Small probe ahead, barely powered." The message broke across the speakers. "To any human listener, please answer." Nobody moved. Ira's light dimmed. The voice repeated, "Please answer." We traveled beyond their borders to find silence. Instead, the old galaxy had sent a cry into the dark.
We brought the probe aboard under quarantine. It sat in the lower bay like a coffin pulled from deep water. Its metal was scarred by radiation, micrometeor strikes, and years of cold travel. The markings were not only Valorian, that was the first warning. Surathi symbols crossed one side. Koran script marked another. 2 smaller species had left emergency seals near the damaged core. The old assembly had built this together. That meant pride had failed. Only desperation remained. Ira scanned the probe before anyone touched it. No active weapons, no biological hazard. Data core fractured but readable. Captain Ree looked at me. "Proceed?" "Proceed." The first files were corrupted. The second group was worse. Worlds without power, food districts abandoned, weather systems spinning out of control, gate tunnels flickering unstable blue before tearing ships apart. Then came medical records, nursery wards, respiratory failure. Surathi children dying before their lungs fully developed. The bay became silent. No one enjoys the suffering of children, even when they belong to people who once watched yours suffer. The final recording came from Auran Prime. The council chamber was still there, but the high seats were half empty. The silver lights were dim. Emergency cables crossed the floor like exposed veins. The old arbiter appeared, older, thinner, afraid. "Humanity," he said, "we were wrong." No one spoke. He continued, "Our foolishness. We believed your ambition was disorder. We believed your restrictions were necessary. We believed the systems around us were strong because we ruled them well." His eyes lowered.
We did not understand how much of that strength came from work we did not value. The file flickered. We are not asking you to return as subjects. We are not asking you to reopen your gates. We ask only whether contact is possible. If mercy remains in your people, send word. The file ended. Static filled the bay. I stared at the dead probe, waiting for satisfaction to arrive. It did not. I had imagined hearing them admit the truth would feel like justice. Instead, it felt like watching a proud old house collapse on the people still inside. Captain Rhee spoke first. What do we do? I thought of Calder's Field, the school bell, the children watching homes become cargo. I thought of Ira asking what patience felt like from inside. Then I thought of the Sarathi children in the medical files. We go home, I said. Rhee nodded slowly. To prepare a reply? To let humanity decide if there should be one. During the return journey, nobody spoke loudly on Dawnrunner. Even meals felt different. Ira spent long hours reviewing the probe files. One night I found her light glowing in the observation room. You are troubled, I said. Yes. By them? By us. I waited. Freedom gave humanity power. This request will show whether freedom also gave humanity wisdom. That was the cleanest description of our problem. When Dawnrunner entered the Solara cluster, the probe was transferred to Luna under public record. No secrecy, no edited message, no private council deciding for everyone. The old galaxy had called. Now humanity had to answer one question. Could we help without returning? The Assembly once voted on whether humanity deserved a future. Now, humanity would vote on whether the Assembly deserved mercy.
The debate lasted a full year. That surprised some people. It did not surprise me. A fast answer would have meant we had learned nothing. The probe's message was shown across every human world, station, habitat, shipyard, school, and public square. People watched the broken gates, the failing worlds, the empty council seats, the High Arbiter lowering his head. No one was told what to feel. That was important. On Mars, former corridor settlers gathered beside the new northern lakes and spoke about homes they had lost. On Venus, engineers explained what kind of help could be sent without exposing critical human systems. On Titan, children who had never seen an assembly ship asked why old people became quiet whenever Aran Prime was mentioned. In the outer habitats, some citizens said no immediately. Their reason was simple. They threw us out, let them repair themselves. Others disagreed. Doctors led many of those voices. One physician on Luna said something that traveled through every channel. A cure does not become false because the patient once hated you. That line became famous. So did Aira's statement. She appeared only once in the public debate. Her blue light filled the screen, calm and steady. I was born after the gates closed, she said. The assembly did not wound me directly, but I live among people who carry those wounds. I ask only this: do not let old pain design your next decision. That phrase stayed everywhere. Old pain, new decision. Still, the debate was not gentle all the time. It should not have been. A woman from Calder's Field stood before a public forum holding a glass jar of soil from her old farm. My husband died during the removal, she said. His heart failed while loading the water tower his father welded. I do not owe the assembly anything. No one corrected her, because she was right.
Mercy that ignores pain is only performance. By the final month, the question had changed. It was no longer, do they deserve help? It became, what kind of people are we when no one can force us? The vote was held across every human settlement. The wording was exact. Should humanity answer the Assembly's request with limited humanitarian and technical aid, while keeping the Solara gates closed and refusing political return? I voted on Luna. Lena voted at Helix 9. My mother voted from her porch with the help of a great-grandchild who kept reminding her which button to press. Era voted too. The Dawnborn had become citizens 5 years earlier after long public discussion. Most humans had learned quickly that a mind asking thoughtful questions deserves more than a label. When the results came, no one called it victory. 62% yes, 38% no. A divided answer, an honest answer. President Venn spoke that evening. "We will help," she said. "We will not return. We will send medicine, knowledge, and repair guidance. We will not reopen our gates. We will not place our future under the authority that once restricted it." The Reply Council was formed the next day. 40 members, scientists, diplomats, former colonists, medical workers, educators, Dawnborn representatives. My name was included. So was Lena's. So was Era's. The assignment file contained one instruction: write clearly, write as free people. The vote was difficult, but writing the answer was harder, because every sentence had to carry mercy without surrender.
The Reply Council met above Earth in a round room with glass walls. Below us, oceans turned beneath clouds. It was difficult to sound small while a whole planet moved silently under your feet. Still, the first draft was small, not cruel, just cold. It offered minimal assistance and nothing more. A farmer from Calder's field read it, placed the page down, and said, "This sounds like a locked door pretending to be a letter." The second draft went too far the other way. It spoke of shared healing, future friendship, and renewed cooperation. An old station mechanic from Red Chapel stared at it for a long time. "My brother died pulling cables from a home he built," he said. "Do not write as if history is a misunderstanding." Both drafts were destroyed. That became our rhythm. Write, argue, cut, begin again. Era listened more than she spoke. When she finally did, the room changed. "You are trying to choose between kindness and strength," she said. Lena leaned back. "And what should we choose?" "Accuracy." That word shaped everything. Accuracy. We would not exaggerate our pain. We would not hide it. We would not insult them. We would not soften the boundary. The final reply began, "To the peoples of the former Valorian Assembly, your message was received. Your suffering has been seen. Humanity takes no joy in it." Some wanted the last sentence removed. I fought to keep it. Pain does not become entertainment because it happens to someone guilty. The reply continued, "We will not return to assembly rule. We will not reopen the Solara gates. We will not place our citizens, children, partners, or future under your counsel again." No one changed that line. Then came the aid. The first gift was medical. Our doctors had studied the tissue records inside the probe. The Cyrathi lung disease had killed children for 8 years. Human researchers found the cure in 9 days using techniques once banned as biological overreach. We sent it freely. No price, no humiliation. The second gift was gate stabilization. Not our fold drives, never those, but mathematics and materials guidance strong enough to stop their old passages from collapsing. They would have to build with their own hands. It would take years, perhaps decades, but the work would belong to them.
The third gift was a knowledge archive: agriculture, water recovery, clean power, weather repair, habitat safety, medicine, environmental renewal. A careful selection from the sciences we had hidden while pretending obedience. Enough to save lives, not enough to make them dependent again. The final lines took longest. In the end, Ira suggested them, and no one improved them. Do not search for us. We will not be where old maps place us. Heal what you broke. Build better than you ruled. I signed the message with the others. K.O. Mercer, former ambassador, witness, nothing more. The probe launched from Luna 3 days later, small, white, unarmed. It carried medicine, instructions, archives, and one boundary written more clearly than any wall. My mother watched the launch from Earth. She sent me a message afterwards. That was kinder than I expected, stronger too. I saved it. The probe vanished into deep space. Then humanity returned to work. Grand moments pass. The morning still comes. Coffee still cools. Children still ask impossible questions. Engineers still argue over numbers. Someone still has to fix the roof. Years went by. Venus received real rain. Mars opened its northern seas. The first family cruisers crossed from Earth to Saturn in less than an hour. The Dawnborn multiplied slowly and chose their own paths. Then, decades later, one final transmission arrived from the old galaxy. Not a plea, not an order, a record. The assembly did not ask us to come back. This time, they only wanted us to know what our absence had taught them.
The final transmission reached Luna 34 years after the gates closed. By then, humanity had become almost unrecognizable to the species we had once been. Venus had forests in protected valleys. Mars had fish in its northern seas. Titan had holiday towns beneath orange skies. Around the sun, the mirror swarm caught light and sent clean power wherever it was needed. No human child learned hunger as a normal condition. No city planned for darkness. No school taught ambition as a flaw. The Dawnborn had grown with us. Ira had become a teacher, writer, historian, and friend to millions. Children sent her strange questions. Scientists challenged her ideas. Old people trusted her with memories they did not want lost. When the transmission came, compact speaker Amara Saul called a public session. I attended with Lena and Ira. The message used old assembly codes, but the seal was different. Not the Valorian crest, a new symbol. Many hands around an open circle. The screen brightened. A young Serafi woman appeared in a plain room. No high seat, no silver hall, no robes. "My name is Tava Ren," she said. "I speak for the new assembly of free worlds." The name moved through the hall like a breath. New assembly, free worlds. She continued. The old Valorian assembly dissolved 6 years ago. Some systems collapsed peacefully, others did not. Many survived because of the medical and technical aid humanity sent. Her voice tightened. We cannot repay that. Images appeared behind her. A nursery ward full of Serathi children breathing normally. A gate construction site where young engineers from former client species worked beside elder races. A public council chamber where every seat was equal height. Then came an image of Calder's Field. I stood without meaning to. The farming moon had changed. The settlement we stripped was gone, but new fields spread across the valleys. The water tower was not ours. The soil engines were not ours. The new colonists had built their own systems, using lessons from the archive we sent. No human machine had returned. That mattered more than I expected.
Tava Ren spoke again. We misunderstood strength. We thought order meant control. We thought peace meant obedience. We thought younger species had to be managed before they became dangerous. She paused. Your absence forced us to discover how much we had refused to learn. No one in the Luna Hall spoke. We are not asking you to return, she said. We understand that a door closed from the inside is not an invitation to knock forever. We ask only permission to remember us honestly. The final image appeared, a monument on Orin Prime. Black stone, simple words. They left. We learned why. The message ended. For a long moment, the hall remained still. Then Ira said softly, "They are not healed completely." "No," I said, "but they are growing." I looked at the frozen image on the screen. The old council world had once been the place where humanity was humiliated. Now it held a monument that did not worship us, excuse them, or demand reunion. It simply told the truth. That felt better than revenge ever could have. Later that night, I visited my mother. She was very old by then, but still sharp, still living in the hill house, still tending her garden with stubborn precision. I showed her the monument. She read the words twice. Then she nodded. That will do. Soon after, the Far Crossing project became public. Humanity had spent decades moving above and below the Milky Way. We had reached nearby galaxies. We had learned that distance was not an enemy, only a patient question. Now a larger step waited. Not back into the old galaxy, beyond it. The old galaxy had finally learned to stand, so humanity prepared to walk farther than any known species had ever gone.
The Far Crossing project was not announced with fireworks. It was announced with a map. The map showed the Milky Way, the nearby galaxies, the local group, and then a line moving beyond all of them into deep intergalactic dark. At the end of the line was no destination, only a question. The ship built for that question was called Aurelia Vast. I first saw her from an observation shuttle at the edge of the human sphere. She did not look like a ship. She looked like a world that had learned how to travel. A silver continent curved around an inner sky. Cities rested along broad valleys. Forests filled her central spine. Artificial seas reflected sunlight made by controlled fusion stars. Rivers moved through real soil under real wind. 11 million humans would live aboard her. Nearly 500,000 Dawnborn would travel with them. She carried libraries, seed vaults, hospitals, schools, memory archives, shipyards, gardens, theaters, debate halls, and quiet rooms for people who needed silence. Humanity had built warships before. Aurelia Vast was not one. She was a promise with engines. Lena stood beside me on the shuttle. She was older now, though age had become flexible in our era. Her hair held silver. Her eyes still looked like they had just discovered a secret and were deciding when to tell me. Ira's light appeared in the glass ahead of us. "She is almost ready," Ira said. "Almost?" I asked. "One thing remains." Lena handed me a command seal. I stared at it. "No. Yes. I am not the right person. You are exactly the right witness." That word stopped me. Witness. Not conqueror, not founder, not hero. Witness. I had stood in the Valorian Hall when they sentenced us to exile. I had watched human colonies lift themselves from foreign soil. I had seen the first gate fold into nothing. I had heard Ira's first greeting. I had carried the broken probe home. I signed the reply that gave help without surrender.
Maybe leadership at the end of a long road was simply remembering why the road mattered. I closed my fingers around the seal. "When do we leave?" "Tomorrow," Lena said. That night, I walked alone through the Aurelia's central forest. Real birds moved above me. Children ran beside young trees, laughing as if tomorrow was only another school day. Dawn-born lights drifted near a pond, speaking with students about the shape of memory. Somewhere deeper in the ship, a choir practiced an old launch song. At the highest observation window, I looked back. The Milky Way filled the dark. Our old home, our old wound, our old teacher. I thought of my mother. She had died 3 years earlier beneath the pear tree she planted when I was 5. She lived 231 years, most of them with dirt under her nails and ship designs hidden in old notebooks. Her last words to me were simple. "Go far, Kale. Stay kind." I carried those words into the launch morning. On the command deck, humans and Dawnborn took their positions. Lena stood to my left. Ira's light spread gently through the walls. The galaxy shone behind us. Ahead waited darkness no map had named. Humanity did not leave because it hated the old galaxy. We left because the future had finally become larger than memory.
Launch morning was quiet. That felt right. The Aurelia Vast floated at the edge of the human sphere, holding 11 million lives inside her silver valleys. Across her cities and forests, people paused to look backward. The Milky Way filled every public window. Children saw it as history. Elders saw it as home. I saw it as both. On the command deck, the final checks moved with calm precision. Weather fields stable. Inner seas secured. Dawnborn network clear. Far crossing drive ready. A young navigation officer turned toward me. "Commander Mercer, field alignment is complete." I almost told her not to call me Commander. Then I let it stand. Some names become less about authority and more about what people need to remember. Lena stood beside me with one hand resting on the rail. Ira's light glowed softly across the forward wall. Then an external signal arrived. Old channel, new seal. The deck became still. "Source?" Lena asked. "New assembly relay. Message only, no request attached." I looked at Ira. She pulsed once. "Play it." Tava Ren's voice filled the deck. "People of humanity, dawn-born friends, travelers of Aurelia Vast, we know today you leave the old galactic shore. We will not ask you to stay." A pause. "Thank you for the mercy you gave when no law required it. Thank you for the boundary you kept when returning would have harmed you. Thank you for leaving us work instead of chains." The screen showed Oren Prime, no longer silver and proud, but greener now. Its rebuilt council hall had equal seats. Tava continued, "May the dark ahead welcome you kindly. May your children find wonder without fear. Build well." The message ended. For a while, no one spoke. Then Ira said, "That was a clean goodbye." I nodded. "Yes." The drive began to wake, not with thunder, but with a deep hum that moved through the deck like a song older than language. Across the ship, schools paused lessons, markets went quiet, families held hands under artificial skies. In the central forest, birds lifted from the trees as if startled by the future. Lena leaned closer. "Are you afraid?" "Yes." "Good." My smile. My mother would have liked that. The navigation officer waited. "On your word." I looked once more at the Milky Way. I remembered the black stone table on Oren Prime, the High Arbiter's verdict, the coffee cellar outside New Geneva, my mother's porch,
Calder's field, the first gate, Ira's blue light, Dawnrunner above the galaxy, the broken probe, the reply sent once, the monument that said they learned why. None of it was wasted. Even pain had become material, not for bitterness, for building. I spoke clearly. Take us through. Aurelia Vast moved. The Milky Way began to fall behind, not suddenly, but slowly, becoming smaller through the forward fields. Its stars softened into a bright island in a dark sea. Ahead was the deep between galaxy groups. No border, no ruling council, no ancient road, only distance and possibility. I understood then that exile had not made humanity free. Freedom had begun later, when we chose not to return as servants, when we chose not to become conquerors, when we chose to help without kneeling, when we chose to leave without hatred. The assembly had removed us from its table, so we learned to build homes without tables above us. They closed their judgment around us, so we opened sciences, minds, worlds, and roads no one had imagined. And when the final door appeared, we did not kick it down. We opened it carefully. Then we walked through. Behind us, the old galaxy turned on, wounded but healing. Ahead was the deep between galaxy groups. No border, no ruling council, no ancient road, only distance and possibility. Yuanzhou.